y'all. It's Bridget Cutshaw with Real Things Living. Today, my guest is Karen DeLoach. She is an artist and creativity specialist, and I'm so excited to have her here today. Can you say hi, Karen?
Hi, I'm happy to be here.
She has a wonderful background, and I wanted to have her on the podcast to share the importance of engaging both sides of your brain, the right side and the left side. And a lot of people have made people feel kind of bad about themselves when they want to be creative when it actually can be healing. Is that the right word, Karen? And
Absolutely.
can she's actually, like I said, a creativity specialist, but you're also a teacher as well?
I am, yes. I teach art in college using textbooks I wrote from South Carolina, and my school's in fairly rural part of the state. And most of my students haven't had much exposure to the arts, and I really feel like it's my mission to expose them to local art and the incredible rich history of Western art with lots of pictures. So I created a book with, even if they never read it, they're going to look at a lot of pictures of art and find hopefully something that they love and enjoy and will remember, because you're going to remember something if it touches you and makes you feel something and think about it. So that's
That's
my goal. And I stir up their creativity, so they have to draw using this book, how to draw exercises, and I stretch them and make them use their right brain.
it's important. And you mentioned the book. It's not just words, but it's images, and that having that dual, I should say dual, but that kind of is helpful. It'll probably engage them more when you see a picture, correct?
Absolutely. Well, it engages a different part of the brain. And,
Right.
I've been a teacher for decades. I've been an artist all my life. And, we learn through what we've studied in school, and they really teach us left brain skills, critical thinking and logic and order and timeliness. Those are all wonderful and measurable left brain skills. But in our school system and in our culture, we don't tend to value and respect and honor more right brain thinking, which is harder to evaluate and judge. But it's half our brain, and it's
Yes.
part of our brain that most of us haven't stirred up enough, not enough to experience that. Serotonin release of the happiness chemical, which now they're showing us is very easy to do if we purposefully take even 15, 20 minutes a day to stir up that part of our brain. We're going to feel better. We can get out of feeling down or depressed or listless or have some brain fog, and this is a really good skill and and part of our brain to develop.
Do you think, as you were talking, made me think, I've noticed a lot of people talking about how having some joy in your day, putting in some fun. Is that kind of related to your right side of your brain, I'm assuming?
Absolutely. The right side of our brain is sensitive, and it's intuitive and it's imaginative. So that part of our brain is fun. It's the fun part. And, when we're little, we just naturally engage our right brain. If you think about when you were 5 and 6 years old, what did you love to do? Did you love to sing or dance or spin or play in the playground? Did you like to color, draw, paint? Did you love to bang on things like drums, like my sons did? They were all, just banging on everything, they ended up musicians. Hello. And you can get hints at this point in your life, whatever age you are, when you look at what made you happy and gave you joy when you were five. Because they asked a room of 5 and 6 year olds, do you like to do these things? And they all say yes. And they love to do part of it, tell stories, some part of that, sing, dance, draw. But you ask a room of 15 and 16-year olds that same question, and almost all of them say no. You know,
Wow.
they're listening to Led Zeppelin on their headphones, but they don't have that. What's happened in those 10 years? What did they lose? Did they lose that capacity? No. Maybe it's the school system. Maybe a teacher or a parent or somebody discouraged them. Oh, you colored outside the lines, or you painted your cow purple.
Right. That was I showed Karen with that. I got in trouble for painting a cow. I'm sorry, using a purple crayon in first grade. And the teacher got on to me, but I had to speak up. Why
Well,
can't
that's
a cow
good.
become purple, right?
That's right. Well, see, most of us let that wound keep us from moving forward. Or we have a teacher that, criticized our singing, or somebody that said, you can't sing. And so now we only sing in the shower. Well, I have good news for you, because scientists have shown and done studies of people who sing in the shower, which is kind of fun. So it engages your right brain without even trying. So you don't have to have a microphone in front of people singing to a crowd to get that release of joy and happiness chemical of serotonin, but it does something else. It also starts making neural connections between the left and right brain. Okay, so there you are. You're in the shower and you're singing along, you're singing your favorite music, and you're scrub-a-dub-a-dubbing, rub-a-dub-dubbing. You're not thinking about anything. You've let your left brain rest, right? You're singing, working that right brain. But you don't realize these connections are happening. So you get out of the shower and you're drying off and you just feel good. It just feels really good. And then all of a sudden an idea pops in your mind. And if you're a writer, maybe just some cool phrases occurred to you, or you find a solution to something that was on your mind before that, or something relationally has occurred to you. Well, that's that engagement you were doing, just singing in the shower,
That's
having fun.
perfect.
Isn't
Yeah,
that
that
awesome?
it is awesome. And I do sing in the shower. A lot of times if I'm taking a bubble bath, I always have music playing.
That's
But
right.
because yeah, you just got to take time and just have your, like you said, both sides of your brain interact, and that's how you solve problems. And I think that's one of the reasons why I like to go for a walk.
It
Um,
worked. Yeah.
because it just I don't know, I just come up with ideas, or like if I'm like I should say frustrated, I will go for a walk.
That's brilliant. There's a difference between your Fitbit count your steps kind of
Yeah,
jog, or,
right.
aerobic walk, and as you're describing, a stroll, where you're just kind of in the moment, you're noticing the sky, the trees, maybe hearing the birds singing, the crunch of leaves, or maybe it's time for flowers to be blooming and you're smelling the roses, so to speak. That engages the right brain. But the walking, the movement is the left brain. So what's happening is I've been reading their studies, it's connecting those sides of the brain. And that's what we're looking for, more engagement of left and right brain. Because, and I have a story to tell. Yeah, David was homeschooled because he wasn't thriving in his academics. He had ADHD, he had dyslexia. He was very, very discouraged and not having success or the will to keep trying. So his mom brought in my studio and he thrived. He loved hand building with clay and he was good at it. Then he loved drawing and painting. And I started entering his work in our local fair, in a youth competition, and he was winning ribbons. Well,
Wow.
that kind of success gave him confidence to persevere to the point where he was able to graduate from high school. And I entered his work when he was 18, a beautiful batik he did of the universes that won not just first place, but best in show in the whole competition. He won money. His family
Oh,
took him.
wow.
But then he had a traumatic brain injury occur from an infection, and he had a stroke.
Oh,
So
wow.
now here he is, 18 years old, paralyzed on the right side. And they spent 4 months rehabilitating him. They had to give him a plastic skull. And in the end of that 4 months, he still couldn't talk. He couldn't communicate. He could barely walk. He couldn't use his right hand. They were trying to do therapy so it wouldn't curl up. But he was so discouraged, as you can only imagine. So his mom brought him right back to the studio, and I thought, well, let's try using your left hand. I'm a left-handed person. You can do this. So he did. He set himself to learning to draw and even to write left-handed.
Oh, wow.
And surprisingly, it didn't take long before he was really good at it. Then I got a call from his neurosurgeon. He's like, I've never called somebody's art teacher before. And he said, "What are you doing with David?" I'm like, "I'm just teaching him to draw with his left hand." He said, "He's stronger with his weak hand than I am, and I'm a surgeon."
Oh, wow.
Not only that, he is getting healing on his right side of his body, so keep doing it. And I've made me study what the science was saying about these neural connections. So David, even though he had these other infirmities, he was overcoming these other issues with ADHD and dyslexia, he was compensating with doing hands-on artwork. And as a result, was building these neural connections, and the brain has this plasticity that was so brilliant. He was able to recover not
Wow.
only start getting stronger on his right side, but now he can talk, he can walk. He's still stronger with his left hand than his right hand, but you wouldn't look at him and know that he has a plastic skull that, 8 years ago he couldn't even talk. And his family, even his neurosurgeons say art brought healing to that young man.
That's an amazing story, and that's something we should definitely talk about more. And I hope this neurosurgeon is sharing this with
Yeah.
because it's important. It's what a scary thing for his parents. However, they learned that he was kind of healed before, but then after this brain um, damage, you helped him, or just using like you said, using both sides of the brain. That is a scary. It's definitely need to be more research around this. I'm sure they're doing that somewhere, and you
Yeah.
can yeah
Yeah.
use this as definitely a great case study.
Can I
And
tell you another story?
oh yes,
This
please. I
this
love
one's
stories.
I know this one's more recent because, like I said, as I started experiencing it even in my own life, and I can talk about that a little bit, but certainly not as dramatic as David's story. But this one has to do with Walter Reed Hospital, which is the foremost military hospital really in the world. They were bringing their soldiers who they had, injuries, and they had dealt with them medically, but they were still struggling emotionally and mentally and physically. And so they did a summer program where they did some extra therapy with these soldiers. And afterwards, they pulled them and they said their very favorite part was art. Now, these are hardened soldiers. These are not people identifying as artistes. These are people who just had an opportunity to do some art, and it brought healing to them emotionally and mentally and helped them deal and express the pain, because we know pain isn't just in the body, it's in the emotions, it's in our
Right,
soul. So, the pain of what they experienced, of what they saw, their injuries, and all of the ramifications, healing happened through art. Now, it's not just uh visual arts, fine arts that work, music, singing, dancing, knitting. There's so many ways to be creative, including cooking, taking
right,
walks, writing. There's
yeah,
so many ways that we can do it that is appropriate for what interests us, because that is the key, is finding what brings you joy, because the joy of creating is available for everyone. Everyone is a creative. You wouldn't have one half of your brain devoted to creativity if that wasn't the case.
right.
So I encourage everyone, and I have a free gift to offer your listeners. Get creative with Karen.com. It's a three-part podcast that really lists some ideas, as we've talked about some of them right
Oh, this is
now, on
great.
what you can do to encourage development of your right brain, because maybe you have brain fog, maybe you have discouragement, or even oppression or depression going on. You don't feel like you fulfilled your purpose in life. Maybe you've already raised your family and developed a career, but you still want more fulfillment. And you can get those hints, as we've described, looking back at your own childhood. What did you love then? you know my mom gave all of us crayons and paper to color with when we were little children. Well, that paper just wasn't big enough for me. So next thing you know, I'm coloring on the walls, right? Ooh, boy, did I get in big trouble.
Right.
Because my mom didn't know that someday I would be a successful mural painter, and people would have me painting on their walls, their
Awesome.
restaurants, their hotels, doing
You
murals.
followed your it's really like a passion. You followed and it made you happy, and it made you like engage both sides of your brain, and you thought outside the box. That's a term now. Thinking outside the box is important. And we can't keep doing, I think, the repetitive stuff over and over and over. That kind of doesn't it gets boring. I mean, I'm the kind of person I will get bored easy if I'm doing the same thing over and over, and that's probably why I like to go outside because it changes, you know,
Mhm.
the nature changes. I think that's why I think a lot of people like that. It's not just me. It's a common. thing. And another thing as
And
you're
you're a
talking,
creative, and here you are, you have your own podcast, you're
I
an
like to
author,
talk, right?
you write, you talk. Yeah, you love to engage people. You
I
love,
do.
you're curious and so
Yes,
all of those things are wonderful connections with your left and right brain. It's
it
not, you don't
helps.
want to get rid of the left brain, but I'll
No,
tell you what, a lot of people have skills, left brain skills that are being replaced by AI. But
that's
so
true.
you
Yes, kind of
never
scary.
have to worry about being replaced from your right
That's
brain. They're
scary.
never going to be imaginative and intuitive the way a human soul is. So, you're safe when you're engaging that part of your brain.
I was, as you were talking, it made me think about, healing the brains of those soldiers. I had, chemo 10 years ago I had cancer. It was my second time. I kind of did have some chemo brain a little bit, but you know what helped me? I was so determined I needed it to go run again. I couldn't, and so I had physical, and that really, I guess was my brain telling my body, get up. I won't say what she was telling me, but to go run. But it just I need, that was an example of listening, listening to your body? I guess that's the right thing. That helped me with the healing and to get over that. And my I get the serotonin, I get the runner's high.
That's awesome.
I don't do it every day, but that's one of I had a hard time, walking much in the beginning, after all that stuff because it's
Painful.
your
Yeah.
brain's it affects everything, including your brain. But I think that and I'm embracing being that creative side of me after going through that. And
Wow.
it just helps you I don't know, encourage other people to do the same. Right? And not just you got to walk the walk, right? Not just talk the talk.
I have another story
Okay,
of
perfect.
one of my students. So she was an adult and very, very talented. We loved working with her hands and very, very skilled. And she got diagnosed also with breast cancer. They called her terminal, and she gave her 6 months life
Wow.
expectancy. And she was doing all the radiation chemo. She even had surgery, but when I found out, I said, look, I know how gifted you are, and I have a big show I'm preparing for. It's a whole room installation, hundreds of pieces of porcelain. Would you help me? Would you come into the studio with me and help me get this work done? And she said, I don't know if I'm going to be here in 9 months, Karen. I said, well, you know what? You'll have a legacy. Let's make some stuff with me. What can it hurt? Well, of course, every day she wasn't doing the medical things. She was in the studio with me, making these beautiful things. We had so much fun. We laughed. We came up with new ideas on creating cookies and candies and cakes and all these beautiful things and finding the right color to be dark chocolate. What's the color of, milk chocolate? And, we had so much fun in those 9 months because yes, she did survive to be part of the show. Not only
Wow.
that, she worked all 17 days of the show. And I'm telling you, 9 years later, she's not just in remission, she is cancer free.
Right. It's
Now, she
yeah,
again credits having something to think about, hope for, look forward to, distract her from the physical issues, really helped save her life in more
yeah.
ways. Another example of art being healing,
And
bringing restoration.
engaging with it, engaging with other people, being at those I think that is so critical to engage as much as you can. And I've always been like I started this podcast, I just like talking to people. And it just helps that's just me, I'm the talker, but it just helps everybody. And I love what you're doing. This is so amazing. How do people learn about finding an art therapist in their local community? I'm just curious, how do they do that?
Well, I'm not an art therapist. I'm
Oh,
actually an
okay.
artist, art teacher. The
Sorry,
day
I call you a therapist because you've helped the stories you've told have helped so many people. Sorry.
Yeah, there are people that have that degree and they work with hospitals and they
Oh,
usually work
okay.
directly in recovery for people and have a great, great work that they do. And that's never been me. I'm not medical oriented at all. I'm just into wholeness and
You're
healing.
engaging
I've just
them. Okay.
experienced it. I've seen it work and then I started studying it because I was interested. But I had my own experience, and this is way less dramatic than my friends
Right.
and other students. But when I was always theatrical too. My father's a storyteller. I was a storyteller. And so I didn't know I went to a school where I could do both, where I could be in theater and art. And I could draw. I always could draw. I love drawing people. I'm like you. I love people. So I like working with people. And then when it time to come with a major, decided major in painting, and I started taking these painting classes. Well, it all fell apart then because these professors couldn't stand my artwork. I
Oh,
was
really?
interested in painting people, portraits of people and places and things. And they were like, you don't need to go to art school to do that. They were just dismissive, using four-letter words, not just casually dismissive. They were dramatically dismissive. They convinced me that I wasn't a painter, completely convinced me. I switched to sculpture and ceramics for graduate school because I believed them. I believed, that,
Right,
that sensitive right brain became convinced you're not a painter, Karen. But it never left my heart. I wanted to. That little girl drawing on the walls, is still in me, I guess.
right.
And I had these beautiful little boys I was birthing. I wanted to paint their portraits, and I would try. I would try these paintings, and I couldn't finish them. There was like this block, and it was subconscious. I wasn't even conscious of it, but I could not finish these paintings. And as I just was crying out to the Lord, what's wrong? Why can't I paint? Well, I then had a man thrust into my life who became my mentor. He had been trained in the Chicago Art Institute when they taught the fundamentals. And that man taught me how to paint.
Oh,
He helped
wow.
me develop my skills on color theory and color matching. And he got me past that point where I had to overcome that negative mindset. You can't paint, you're not a painter. And it
Right.
was hard work because I had so convinced myself the truth of what those professors professed. Fortunately, realism came back into style, so maybe there's not so many other students suffering the way I did. But I lost 10 years, maybe more than that, of being a painter because of accepting those words. And I know there's a lot of people that accepted the words of their childhood teachers or even their
Right,
parents telling them, you can't do this, you can't do that, whether it's
right.
singing, playing, dancing, whatever it is. And I know that there is some things you have to retire from. You're not going to be a prima ballerina in your 50s, but
Right.
doesn't mean you can't dance, right? My husband, my favorite Christmas present he ever gave me was ballroom dancing classes. And we did
Oh,
that for
that's so
years.
cool.
I know it's so much fun. We got our whole family, our whole church, everybody we knew, we ended up dancing with us in that studio. And
That is
eventually
so cool.
they closed, but we had a blast. And so the thing that brings me joy about what I'm doing with encouraging people's creativity is you don't have to identify being a fine artist or a musician to get the benefits. Your
Right.
brain doesn't know you're not a great guitar player or a great artist or a great cook, right? It just knows you're having fun doing it. So I say find your joy, find what brings that back, that little 4 and 5 year old
Right, that's
having
true.
fun. And the criticism comes from that right brain. I call it, I mean, left brain bully, that you can't do that, you're terrible. And a lot of us really have to overcome that paralysis of perfectionism. I'm not great at it right away. And then they just don't want to do it. But if you can shut that down, I call it creating a safe space. This is a no criticism zone. Wherever you are, wherever you're doing it, no criticism. And that's why my first lessons in my book is you're not allowed to even look at your paper. We're going to separate your experience of doing it from the product, not product oriented. Now, when you're cooking, obviously it's about what you end up making, right? And how fun it is. But most people just care how it tastes. We want it to look
And
good
it's
too.
not always perfect. You just tweak it, right, as you
That's
go
right.
along.
There you go. That's your creative spark coming out, Bridget, as you tweak your
I
recipes.
tweak things. I
That's
call it I
awesome.
Bridgetize stuff. I'm sorry, because
That's awesome. Yeah.
it's being
And
your like what I like might be someone else might not like, right? But
what is
that's
creativity? It's making something from nothing, and
mhm.
it's you're making it happen, and it's engaging your brain and your emotions, and your mind is rested. You just find so many ways. It's interesting. One study they did, and this is kind of shocking to people, employees that took a break to go smoke actually had some health benefits because they go outside, they take a break from their computer computers, they take a break from their work, they spend 15 minutes enjoying the chirping, whatever's happening
Right.
in nature, having a conversation with somebody else out there smoking. I'm not advocating smoking. I'm
Right, right.
advocating
It
taking
was
a
a
break.
break. Right, it was a break.
Taking a break, even if
Yeah.
it's just 15 minutes to just breathe and, take a little stroll or just forget about the problems, whatever you're trying to solve. I know when I was homeschooling four children, what do you want for Mother's Day? I want you to take the children and go for a few hours. Let me finish this painting or,
Right,
just
repaint.
have mama time by myself. That was the treat. That was the big treat. You can bring back something to eat, but I don't care about going out. I want my own time right now to
Right,
create.
it's true. And then to me, I found as I've gotten older or whatever, this phase of my life, experiences are more important to me than an actual physical thing. You know what I'm saying? I
Amen.
think that is helpful for your mental health and your
Right.
and dealing with other people. I mean, it's nice to have some things, but it's not as important after the health issues that I've had, right? And as you were
Yeah.
talking, I didn't
Yeah.
mention earlier, I do have a brain tumor. Okay, I do on the
Oh,
left
wow.
side. It's a rare primary brain tumor. And I think that was another that's on the left side though. And maybe that's why my right side, like the balance has to work overtime. And maybe that's why I want to focus more to, like you said, my brain is trying to heal itself. And
Awesome.
and I discovered it doing an by doing an MRI to check out my pituitary because of the, related to the breast cancer. But they're just amazed how I have healed. It's still there. It's dead though, right? So
Woo!
I killed it. Okay. But I mean,
Good.
it's as an example. I'm at, but I had to be, I was a little dizzy sometimes just because the right side's trying to fix the balance aspect of it. But it's just, again, I was listening to my body, something ain't right. And I think that's why my creativity has really become super important now. It's
Wow.
um, because I know you're here for a limited amount of time, and that's kind of how I look at it to create a fun experience. And I think it's so awesome what you're doing. I love your energy. I love how you're helping and you're just engaging people. And it's okay to be creative. And you and I grew up in that era where it was considered to be kind of elitist to be an artist, and you don't have to be, right? We're
No,
all
even looking at it, this is the other part, and I think this is why um, the internet is full of puppies and kittens and babies is because even looking at them brings us joy. Why we
yes,
like to watch cooking shows or survivor shows. We like
yes.
seeing people utilize their creative side, to come up with things, but also going to galleries or museum, looking at beauty, looking at sunsets. My husband and I have a habit of holding hands and walking at night and
Beautiful.
catching up of our day and watching the sunset, seeing the neighbors, smelling the flowers, whatever, other dog walkers or other people, whatever it is, you're engaging in the moment, and these are all
Yes.
engaging your right brain, and you're living the life in the moment. And it's just so easy to do, and yet you have to make a choice to do it, to engage. So I commend you for that, for choosing to spend your life being creative, nothing like having health scares to,
Oh yeah. That was
make
a
you
wake up
appreciate
call.
every day.
It's a wake up call for many people, not just me. And we're all learning, and that's why I like to share these kind of stories because we can learn from that. The story of that young man whose brain, well, he can talk again, who had damage. I mean, that is just because he was using his brain. And I think, and as we're in our get older, we still have to keep using our brain as much as possible. And I think the creativity side just is just as important, right?
Yeah,
As
and,
the
people my age, they're concerned about mental health and
yes, exactly.
keeping their brains sharp. My mother's 92 and her brain is sharp, and she
Right.
makes a conscious effort every day to engage it, to do puzzles, to do things that make her
Yeah.
think. She loves Jeopardy. It's one of her favorite shows, seeing people use their left brain brilliance, and she's conscious about that, and I just really appreciate that kind of legacy. So as you pursue your creativity, you're influencing your family and others. And I
Yes.
commend you on creating a podcast to
Yes.
encourage others and make a difference in your
It's
audience
beautiful.
lives. Yeah.
So, where can people learn more about you, Karen?
Yeah, I really would love them to go to getcreativewithkaren.com, where I've got this free 3 episode podcast to talk more about creativity and how you can gauge and show you how to maybe connect with me if you want to have some personal your own personal mentor. I love to do that with people and take you through your own journey. And it's exciting to see how it works and how people's lives are changed and they have joy that they didn't have. Maybe they were missing purpose, fulfillment, creating a legacy as you get older. You really think about what you're going to leave. Maybe it's writing. Maybe when you're taking that stroll, you take your sketchbook and you just doodle,
Yeah,
just do they call neurodoodles now, or you take your journal and you're writing, just making notes of things that you think about as you're doing that, or not. No, just enjoy it. You don't have to even do any of that. You can,
people
but
take
it's
pictures. Like,
take photographs. Oh, my
yes,
sister,
photographs.
since she
Yes.
retired, she's taken up photography and she's really good. She was a gymnastics coach and judge, and now she's a photographer. My father took up painting in the end of his life, and those paintings are precious to me and my sister. I mean, they may not be in a museum, may not be museum quality, but that's not what's important about them. What's important about them is that he did that, and
Right.
we love our paintings from our dad. So I encourage everyone, find your joy, find your
Right.
creative joy.
Embrace it. It's okay. One day at a time, right? You don't have to go like something extravagant. But if you want to, go ahead, right? But
Right.
you
Create a
gotta,
safe place, create a
right.
no criticism zone for yourself.
Exactly. This
Yeah,
is so awesome, Karen. I really appreciate it. And for those that are listening, I will include the link that where you can find Karen in the description.
thank you.
And this is awesome. And I'm going to go learn how to draw now.
Amen. That's right. Woohoo! Why not?
Exactly. Why not? He's got to use that brain. Right.
Yeah.
Thanks again,
God
Karen.
bless. Bye bye.